Hello and welcome to the Tavern Chat podcast. I'm your host, Eric Tenkar, and this is another of our Designers and Makers series of Fireside Chats. Fireside Chats because we don't do interviews, we sit down with friends. With me today is Jay from Feral Games. Jay.
Hi, this is Jay, and I'm the only person in Feral Games Inc.
Well, there you go. All right. So, as I explained to Jay before we started recording, I'm going to ask 5 questions. Of course, it's a good thing I know my questions, Ashley. My kitty on my desk who's lying on top of my questions. But the good thing I've done this over 3 dozen times, so I know the questions. You can't stop me. You can't stop me, girl. All right. So, Jay, tell us about your first RPG experience.
What, playing or designing?
Playing, and then we can talk about designing.
Okay. I kind of started playing role-playing games when I was around 13. And I kind of started with the Fighting Fantasy books. I picked one of those up. I think it was probably one of the first ones, sort of Death Trap Dungeon, I think. So I picked that up and I really enjoyed it. And from there I bought Tunnels and Trolls.
Oh, God, yes.
Advanced Fighting Fantasy book. And then from that, I met other people in school who also played role-playing games. And one of the people I knew put me on to things like RuneQuest.
Yep.
And Star Frontiers, which is it's an old blast from the past. I also remember playing AD&D 2nd edition with my English school teacher at the time, who ran it. And from there, basically, it went from... I was never a big fan of D&D. I always preferred RuneQuest. And from RuneQuest, I went into Rollmaster and Call of Cthulhu and all that sort of stuff. I mean, pretty much a lot of the older sort of games. Played pretty much most games, I think, that's actually exist today and used to exist. So I've been playing since I was 13, so that's quite a lot of years. 30 years plus. And I've always wanted to... I always just sort of homebrew my own games, sort of create rules for them. Things I didn't like in the game, I'd change it to something that I preferred. For instance, things like Pathfinder, I added an armor homebrew in there, so armor damage would not be like an AC, it'd be more like armor points coming off damage.
Yeah, kind of like Tunnels and Trolls. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, basically trying to make anything into RuneQuest or Tunnels and Trolls. But yeah, so I've kind of always homebrewed things. I've always changed rules and so forth. And then a few years back, I was working, and then in 2008 the recession sort of hit, and I got made unemployed. I got made redundant, and I became homeless. And I was homeless for a good few years. And then I met my partner, who I now live with, and I ended up living with her. And I thought, hold on, I've got this situation now. I've got this perfect situation where I could actually, do something, right? I could change things. And I didn't want to work for people anymore because I just, I didn't want to have the risk of becoming unemployed again or whatever. I didn't want that hassle, really. So I thought, well, what do I like to do? And I thought, I like writing and I like role-playing. So let's combine the two and write role-playing games. So that's what I did. I got myself, I had myself a laptop, and I got myself Word, and I got LibreOffice. And I basically built my first role-playing game, which was called Delve, through LibreOffice, made it into a PDF. It was very badly made. The PDF didn't work whatsoever because it was more of an image than a PDF because I just screwed it up completely. But I released it for free on DriveThruRPG, and it had like 2,000 downloads. And I thought, well, this is working. So I made another game called the Super Secret Spy Agency, which was basically a game based on things like Kingsman.
Oh, okay.
And again, that was a free one. So I posted that on DriveThru, and again, that got downloaded tons. People seemed to like it. And it went from there, really. That was it. That was me off and flying.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a hell of a path to get there, and it's interesting too because I've done about 3 dozen of these interviews, and things that have never come into the conversation yet are Tunnels and Trolls, which I'm a huge fan of, and I even have Ken St. Andre's personal copy of second edition. I don't even
Wow.
think there's any, yeah.
Well, just saying that, just quickly, my
Uh-huh.
highlight of my life, practically, right, was the day that I was on Facebook and I just released something. It was my birthday, and Kensei Andre sent me happy birthday wishes. I was like, no way.
Ken's a character. He's definitely a character.
Yeah.
And now you played RuneQuest, and I'm assuming that was the Games Workshop hardcovers.
Nope.
No.
Chaosium box set.
Holy crap! So you see, like I go back to RuneQuest 2 was when Chaosium printed the hardcover, and I think they printed it in softcover too. I never had the Chaosium box set, although I had Pavis and Big Rubble from Chaosium,
Yeah.
and I had the Avalon Hill horrible
Yeah.
the box set. Well, at least the Games Workshop version of the Avalon Hill came in these nice hardcovers that I picked up since on eBay, and the artwork is great. The presentation is awesome. The rules still suck. But it's just I always enjoyed RuneQuest. Regretfully, my gaming group didn't enjoy it as much as I did,
Yeah.
but I always had a good time with that.
Yeah.
All right, so now, all right, we're going to do our follow-up question. Then, what is your go-to RPG system these days? What system do you mostly play?
It's hard to say.
It
Really.
could be more than one, but
It kind of depends what mood I'm in, really.
Okay.
At the moment, I'm playing. I'll tell you what I'm playing at the moment. On a Tuesday, I play Call of Cthulhu. We're doing the Origin Express campaign.
Okay.
And I've always loved Call of Cthulhu. I've always loved Lovecraftian stuff, so that's always been a big draw for me anyway. And because it's obviously uses the RuneQuest system, it was an obvious move. It was an easy one to. I love D100% of systems anyway. So,
right.
Cthulhu on a Tuesday I'm playing at the moment. On a Saturday we're currently playing Fate, which is the first Fate game I've ever played actually. And I didn't actually like Fate when I first started looking at it. I didn't like the concept behind aspects and stuff. I found that a little bit confusing, does too much effort. Or something, I don't know. I just found it confusing for somebody who's kind of learned his life through rules. It was kind of a bit too free-flowing. But since playing it and since reading all the books, I've actually kind of really appreciated it and really like it. And then on a Sunday, I'm running a Conan 2D20 game, which I actually enjoy the 2D20. Good. I love character creation more than anything. And I love crunchy character creation. I love the Traveller creation back in the old days.
Oh, yeah, you can die. It's always awesome.
Exactly. I loved all of that. But I've had a go-to. I don't think I have one go-to system. The games that I have on my favourite RPG shelf, I have thousands of role-playing games. So one is on my shelf. So at the moment, a Cimbrum, because I like the background. Coriolis, because again, I like the background. Mutant Year Zero, again, because I like the background. Conan, because I like the system and the background. I'd say Warhammer Fantasy. The new one's quite good. I really like it. I've got the first and second edition as well, but the fourth is good. I've always wanted to play Tales from the Loop. At the moment, I'm going for a bit of a free league thing. But strangely enough, I don't actually like the Mutant Year Zero hit point system. I think it was better with Coriolis, but that's just me. Yeah, it varies. Depends what mood I'm in, really. Sometimes I'm discovering things all the time.
Now, see, like you bring up Warhammer, and my first introduction to Warhammer was the old thin box set that called itself Warhammer, role play or something like that. But really, it was like single unit mass combat. And I wish I could find that box. It's in storage somewhere. And then, of course, the regular Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay from Games Workshop, and then second edition from Green Ronin. Loved it all. Great stuff. Then the box set with the funky dice that made no sense to me, and was printed on really shitty paper. No, I own it, and no. And I'm waiting to get my hands on the latest fourth edition, I guess, because it looks like it's a throwback to first and second.
It is, yeah, very much so. Yeah, totally. It's very good. I really like it. I think character creation is quite interesting because you can actually choose to forego experience points by having choices, and I kind of like that. I like that aspect of it. So
That's cool.
yeah.
That was the system where I had my first TPK, total party kill. That I didn't do. Okay, as a GM, it really wasn't me. It was my the party mage who thought that he was like a Mexican bandito, but instead of having ammo crossing his chest, it was flasks of oil. And so and he went to cast a fireball and he critically failed. So it was like ground zero impact with like I think it was 12 flasks of oil. So and the party was all near him, was trying to make sure that they were not in the fireball blast when he cast it away, and it was on him. And there was no party left after that one. It seems that fire is frequently a way for parties to kill themselves, so it was interesting. All right, so let's go on to and this is mostly what you're going to find in. It's certainly in D20 games. The concept of save or die. Tunnels and Trolls has a save aspect too, I guess. But the idea that doesn't matter how powerful your character is, if it's save or die and you fail your save, your character is dead. How do you feel about that concept?
Depends on the game, I think. If it's a dark and kind of something like Hammer or Symbrum or something like that, then I suppose in a way that's fair enough. If your character hasn't, stocked up on enough healing potions to basically get him out of that sort of situation, then he hits to the point where he is dead, and he fails to save. Then I guess the other side of it is obviously how quickly it takes to make another character.
Exactly, and Pathfinder. if I kill you in Pathfinder and save or die, you got to spend the next 2 hours on your laptop designing your character again.
Yeah.
That's one thing. If it's Tunnels and Trolls or I don't know, Swords and Wizardry or one of the old D&D clones where you can be up and running again in 10, 15 minutes, it isn't as detrimental, I guess.
No, I mean for high fantasy games like D&D and Pathfinder and so forth, I think that sort of thing works quite well. But I think also that because characters are meant to be heroes in them sort of games, but the opportunity to die should be quite slim. In a sense where if I was going to run a game where somebody was going to possibly die, they would have to die because they've done something stupid. If they're going to like jump off a cliff, then yeah, they're going to die. Because that's just how it is. You don't just jump off cliffs because, but if they kind of do something and if the dice messes up, they have a roll that basically just screws them, then I think it's a bit harsh if you just kill them off for that, really. I think that shouldn't be. I think God should intervene and the heroic nature of the game should step in and have that sort of movie moment when they just save themselves by the scene of their sort of teeth.
It's like kind of watching, I guess, I don't know, the first Lord of the Rings movie, The Fellowship. When you're watching it, you're seeing the characters survive impossible odds, and then when one finally succumbs, like Boromir falls, but it's a dramatic fall. It wasn't just oh man, he failed to save. No, he was dramatic. He was saving the hobbits and
yeah,
I guess keeping the storyline going.
I mean, he went against unbeatable odds, basically. That's what it was. But he took on a lot to save, the hobbits. So, in that sense, if you're willing to take that risk in order to, I think any character who goes into that situation where they have unbeatable odds always have in the back of their minds that they could die. Right. And I think in those situations, having a heroic death, something that's not just, all right, yeah, you fumbled, you dropped your sword, somebody kicked your head off and you're dead. That's a bit kind of, if you're going to do that to someone in that sort of situation in a game, then you're going to have to, the GM is going to have to give out some heroic death sequence for that. Angels, sort of trumpets in the background, and all that sort of stuff. I mean, it's got to be pretty spectacular, I think.
Yeah, it should be, generally speaking, it should be worth it. And again, it depends on the system you're playing. If it's a system where, re-rolling a character is quick and easy, it has, I think, less of an impact. Whereas if you're going to be stuck sitting out the rest of the session and maybe some of the next session, reworking your character, unless you're going to say, all right, I'm going to be my dead character's brother, same stats, same basic equipment, same skills, same feats,
Yeah.
but that kind of defeats the purpose too.
Yeah, totally. I think, well, what would be nice, right? And I don't know if anybody's ever done this, and I'm surprised if they haven't, to be honest, but it would be nice if there was a website, right? You can immortalize your character when they have a heroic death, where you can upload the character sheet and give a little blurb about how they died and what happened and stuff. So it was on the internet forever. So people could go into this like graveyard of characters and look at past characters from different games and see how they died, and that'd be kind of cool.
That would be really cool, actually.
An RPG memorial for your characters, but only ones that had died from. And obviously, the admin would have last say on whether that death was heroic or not, or just stupid, right? So, but have it up there so that you could be immortalized forever. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I got to talk to my programmers on the Discord server here for the Tavern and see what anybody could hook something like that up. That would be interesting.
And then each month you could even have a prize for the best heroic death, or once every 6 months or something, or 3 months or whatever. Do you know what I mean? You can have a prize. And somebody you get of a game or something, or one of the publishers that you kind of deal with could offer a PDF of a game as a prize for the best heroic death of a quarter or month or something.
I like that idea. Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah.
It can't. I mean, all right, you left me a quarter of my bladder here, so I will make a note about heroic deaths and heroic deaths website. And no, you don't have to take the pencil from my hands because I'm writing. All right. So we got. All right. Let's hit the last question then, and then we'll freestyle and go off the beaten path.
Okay.
You came into gaming at the age of 13.
Yeah.
That 13-year-old you, looking at you now and what you've been doing in gaming, what you're involved with, what would that 13-year-old think?
I don't know. I think he'd pretty much think I was cool, hopefully. And that he'd want to play the games I make. I'd like to think that. That'd be good. I don't know. I mean, it's hard to say, really, isn't it? I mean, yeah, I'd like to think that he thought that the games I make were cool and he'd want to play them.
Cool. It's not an easy question to answer. I've learned that it's usually the one that stumps people because it's hard sometimes to even envision, because as somebody else pointed out, the progress that we've seen in the last, in my case, when I was 13, the last 38 years, where maybe you had a friend that had like an Atari 400, where you had to enter everything by hand if you were going to run a program, or a tape deck that would take 45 minutes to load.
Yeah. I think Z81. I had a Z81, which was, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's memories. For me, my first computer was a Coleco Atom, which was basically a ColecoVision with a digital tape deck, keyboard, and daisy wheel printer that was louder than the trains passing my house a block away. Oh my God, it was. I tried putting it on styrofoam and other or rubber and blankets, and nothing quieted it down. Nothing muffled that sound.
I remember the Commodore 64s actually came with tape decks built in, didn't they? Or something.
No, well, the Commodore 64, the keyboard was your computer, and then you either bought a tape deck or a floppy drive. and I had a floppy drive with my 64.
Right.
Because my 64 was the, I don't know, the second generation. It wasn't that curved keyboard. It had sharper angles. It was a 64C, and I had a blast with that. And of course, I do not endorse pirating of games, but when I was in my teens and had no money, and friends were like, "Oh, just buy you know blank floppies, and don't buy the double-sided floppies. Make your own by getting a hole puncher and just punching that hole on the other side of the floppy to make it a double-sided floppy." And that's how I got a lot of my games until I was like 19 and had a real job. And then I was like, I'd rather pay for my stuff. But well, it also made it easier if you were doing the SSI Gold Box games, which a lot of times you either had to like use that little wheel to, every once in a while there's like that stop
Right.
point in the game, and you had to break out the wheel and line up, 3 different sections to get the actual code that you had to type in.
I remember playing Barbarian on Commodore 64.
Oh wow!
When you used to have a side-scrolling fighting thing where you cut the heads off at the end, and you hold the head up, and you're, like a bob. Yeah, that was really cool. But yeah, I remember playing that, and I did actually get an Amiga 500, which I upgraded to Amiga to 1 meg because it was 500 kilobytes, and then I upgraded to another 500 to meg.
I
And
always wanted an Amiga. I always, remember the cool games were on the Amiga, the great graphics.
yeah,
Although then you were putting your graphics through your CRT TV, and there was no such thing as great graphics when you were watching it through a 13-inch color TV.
yeah,
Going through
yeah.
like the splice.
I think my gaming kind of died on Mega when the Mega Drive came out. So I bought a Mega Drive with a 16K RAM pack, which you could boost the actual RAM on it, couldn't you? In the Mega Drive, you could boost the thing at the back. So I got that.
Nice.
Swords of Vermilion was one of my favourite games on Mega Drive, which was a role-playing game, sort of rogue, sort of like type role-playing game. And
I remember it because the Mega Drive was the wasn't that like over here the Sega Genesis?
Sega Genesis, yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, I had sort of a million Streets of Rage. What was the Buck Rogers game?
I
That
think I've
was
had
yeah. It was built on like the Gold Box style D&D because
oh, right, okay.
TSR was owned by what is it? Oh God, now I'm forgetting her name. But she was one of the heirs to the Buck Rogers I don't know IP.
Right.
So she basically licensed her work to her company and double
Uh,
dipped and made money. But it was one of the few it might have been the only RPG on a Genesis that I actually finished and got to the end on. It was
right.
actually achievable. I was surprised. It's usually you couldn't finish them.
I think I completed Swords of Vermilion, but I can't remember. It's a long time ago. But yeah, Swords of Vermilion was one. Golden Axe was another one.
Oh God, Golden Axe was a blast and a half.
Well, that's weird you say that, right? Because in about 2003, 2004, I was living in a city called Lancaster over here, and I had a basement in my house I was living in. I turned it into a games room. And I endeavoured to buy all the old consoles. So I had Dreamcast, Mega Drive, all of that stuff. And I got Golden Axe for the Mega Drive. I thought, yeah, this is going to be awesome. But, it was so bad.
Well, it was awesome. It was awesome for the time.
Yeah, it was great. It's just,
I mean,
yeah, nostalgia is just a bitch, really. It's not like,
yeah, and like the Genesis, I bought the Genesis because I worked in a department store selling electronics, and that was the one video game system that we actually sold. So I wound up, and my department manager's like, "Wow, you're in your 20s. Why would you be buying a video game system?" I'm like, "You have no clue, no clue." And yeah, no, I had some of the games weren't as much fun, but like my gaming group was hooked on the Electronic Arts mini golf game, which
Right.
only the first, I don't know, 6 months of production of the Genesis could run it. Like the later Genesis wouldn't run games from Electronic Arts because they weren't licensed. But we could play them, and we would play. I don't know if it was called Zany Golf or not, but we would play this for like an hour before actually playing D&D or whatever RPG we're going to play, because it was just addictive, and you could play 4 players because you just pass the controller around. It's amazing what you. I still have my Genesis up in the attic.
God.
I don't think the Sega CD that attached to it is going to still work at this point. I sincerely doubt it. But
Yeah.
I'm sure the Genesis will still work.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
You know, I don't know. I don't know if I want to go through the effort of setting that up and trying to put it on my 50-inch TV, because I think I'm going to be sorely disappointed in the results. I'm probably better off just having fond memories. Yeah. Hmm. Well, I told you before we started recording it, we were going to go off on weird tangents, so we certainly did.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what you have worked on and what you are working on.
Okay, so I've worked on, I've done a lot of games really. A lot of them weren't great. My early stuff is still very much a learning process. Really, I think our biggest sort of game to date at the moment is probably Ghost Ops, which has been very, very popular. And that's where you play special operatives in a kind of a wartime, sort of modern day covert ops sort of game. It's been very, very popular with a lot of the military, actually. And that's been massive. Just been pretty popular with both Savage Worlds and the standard version. We did 2 versions of that. That's been really good. I do a lot of little mini games as well. So I've done things like role-playing games, 2-sheet role-playing games, where things like Baker Street Irregulars, where you play members of the Baker Street Irregulars from Sherlock Holmes, who are the kids.
Oh yeah.
You play a member of those, sort of doing jobs for Sherlock Holmes. And I've done a few little things like sort of mini dungeon RPGs. So it's got all the rules you need to play and everything else, and it's all kind of just all on 2 sheets. And I've also done, there was a game we did, a science fiction game called the Zombie Squad we done, which was for D20 and for Powered by Apocalypse. That went all right. It's one of those games that I look at now and think, I really want to update that and improve it. But yeah, Ghost Ops has been our biggest game, popular game. Then at the moment we've got Wraith Recon, which is Kickstarter at the moment.
I've heard good feedback from people who have, I guess, played the first edition of that or an earlier edition.
Yeah, we've got to remake it, and I wanted to basically bring it up to date, add some new stuff to it, expand upon it, because it's very it's done for D&D edition and for RuneQuest 2, which I think was the could have been the Mongoose RuneQuest actually. And we're going to kind of re-release it for Savage World edition, and with our own system as well, using the similar systems of what's in Ghost Ops, and expand the world and expand the technology and make it a little bit more modern and just clean it up a little bit, really. It will still be a setting book for Savage Worlds and D&D, but it depending on how well it funds, it may be a full RPG for our own system.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, if you like the original Wraith Recon, this is the same kind of thing, but just better. Really expanding on it and making it up to date for more up to date systems. It's a great little fantasy world, and we've added a lot of things like drones where you can play. You can have animal familiars, so you can actually send your eagle out sort of looking for stuff, and you've got drones which are kind of fairies with the ability to send information back to the drone operator, if you like.
Okay.
So drones, and obviously you have a spellcon system, which is kind of like an intercon system that all the characters can talk to each other through comms, and it also works as night vision. And we've got repeating crossbows, which act like kind of like with modern day assault rifles. So you can have those assault moments and all that kind of thing. All the technology and griffin flying, crossbow wielding air force. Dragons and all sorts of things. It's going to be really cool. I mean, if you get to make it, if it actually fits and stuff and everything goes well on it, it could be really, really cool. So I'm looking forward to making it. That should be good. The other thing I'm working on at the moment, we're just finished actually. I finished it today, in fact, was League of Seekers, which is a Cthulhu-based 18th century RPG where you play members of a secret organization that basically goes out to kill cultists and monsters and so forth. It's massive history to it. It all starts like in 730 AD, where Damascus and Abdul Halazrad sort of appears in Damascus, and he gets taken in by his brotherhood and brings him back because he's all ill and dehydrated because he's just walked through a desert, and they basically take him in and feed him and keep him well. And at this point, he writes the Al-Azif, or the Necronomicon, whatever you want to call it. And because of the terrors that this Necronomicon has, the Brotherhood brick him up under Solomon's Temple. And then it splits onto 1135 AD. The Templars come along and unearth Solomon's Temple and unleash the Necronomicon and all the horrors that it brings, causing the world to fall into this sort of dark, plague-like abyss of horror. And over these centuries, things open these spheres to Yossofoth and people like Gilderay and Vlad Tepes and all of these horrors that have gone on throughout history sort of open these spheres up. So when the game starts in the 18th century, in 1765, Europe and the colonies of America are beset by monsters, and folk legends have come back to life, things like Baba Yaga and all of that, and Cthulhu monsters and horrible cults, and there's quarantine zones where the infected are stacked away in parts of London and Paris. It's kind of like Cthulhu meets Bloodborne.
Damn.
And you basically play a seeker who basically is there to hunt out these monsters and these cults and put an end to it before the horror turns. You get to play a seeker, or you can play the Muslim Brotherhood that first locked away Abdullah Azrad. You can play one of them, or you can play a vampire. Vlad Tepes, who is now a full-blown vampire due to a deal he made with a demon, holds back the Ottoman Empire from the eastern borders of Europe. But he's actually a vampire, and he has sired other vampires, and these vampires now help the Seekers. So you can actually be a vampire with the Seekers, with all the abilities that brings and all the weaknesses that brings as well. So that's pretty much the game I've just finished working on.
Wow, you've got a full plate now. I'm looking at your page on DriveThruRPG.
Yeah,
and you've got nearly 36 titles. That's
yeah.
And I like the fact that the Ghost Stop core rules are pay what you want. If you want to get support material, there's a price on it, but pay what you want for the core rules is awesome. It's like giving that free hit of crack back in the late 80s and 90s to somebody, and once they find they like it, then they're hooked for more. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I will say though that the pay what you want was only for a week.
Oh.
Yeah, that actually ends today.
Oh well, all right.
Yeah, sorry about that, but I mean, we have got obviously each of those books for Ghost Ops is available in both hardback and softback, which we had to sort of put on private because obviously pay what you want affects them as well. Which could get them quite pricey. So that's only for a week. After today, it goes back to normal price. It's only $10, so it's not very expensive.
Not bad at all.
But I know a load of people grabbed it in the last week. We've done hundreds of people have grabbed copies of it in the last week. So we have hooked up hundreds of people with the game free mainly, and there's a ton of source material for it on there. The Project Lucia is the latest thing, which is. Do you remember that computer game called Fear? We basically, you're a special operative and you have to go into this place and all these people were like psychic soldiers and there's like a horror element to it and they were calling upon demons from the from the Abyss and all that sort of stuff. Well, basically, the Lucifer Project allows you to play that kind of game where your enemies are psychic soldiers and demons. It's optional. You don't have to play that. You don't have to do that at all. But yeah, it's an optional kind of world that you can play in using Ghost Ops.
Interesting, man. That's pretty damn cool. And I'm looking at this, and I'm just like, wow. It's a catalog there that's really nice and pretty impressive.
Yeah, we've done a lot of stuff. Well, I've done a lot of stuff. There's only me in Feral Gamers Inc. I get freelance writers in. I tend to use the same freelance writers or the same freelance artists as well because I've kind of got a relationship with them now. And even though they're not part of a team, they I don't pay them like a salary or anything, or I don't pay them any kind of royalty. They all tend to sort of work on the games I write. And they all kind of know what I want, and we all kind of work together. But I'm kind of a guy who does majority of the rule writing, the layout, all of that gubbins is all me, really. So I'm pretty much at this sort of 7 days a week.
Believe it or not, I can relate to the 7 days a week because I've missed a day of blog posting in, I don't know, 5 years. And now the podcast has been daily for nearly a year. So, and it takes a certain amount of discipline to keep yourself producing or working on your projects constantly and not taking time off. I mean, and it takes an understanding family too. It takes a good partner in your life. I mean, my wife, God bless her, she's dealt with this for our 7.5 years of marriage, and she has no problem with it. And I was like, "You sure? It's a big time investment here." And she's just like, "Yeah, you enjoy it, do it. It makes you feel good."
Yeah, I mean, I'm lucky to have a similar kind of wife, really. She's very supportive, and she does. She knows I'm going to sit here and work from 9 o'clock in the morning till 7 o'clock at night, and so she provides my lunches and my dinner, and is keeping the cat happy at this moment while keeping quiet. So,
well, there you go.
Yeah, and it does help having that support network. Completely behind you, because it can come to a point where I've got to a point where I hit walls, or I just start sort of thinking I can't do this. I've got to take a day off. And it's only recently that I've actually decided to start, to have definite days. So on Monday to Friday I work 9 till 5:30, and I stop.
Okay.
And then on a Saturday and Sunday I try to take time off. It doesn't always happen, but I try to take Saturday and Sunday off if I can. But recently I haven't done, really, because I've had to get stuff out because things have been a little bit late. And that's kind of one of the things about Kickstarter, I think, is that when you've got a load of backers expecting something, it kind of pushes you on a bit, because I don't want to let people down if I can help it.
Right.
And so it's a good motivation having that many people sort of sitting there waiting for it, because that it's not about me. I can't just sit here and go, "Oh, I'll do it today or I'll do it tomorrow." I've got to keep doing it.
Well, and that's the weird thing about Kickstarter, because it for somebody like you, having those backers with that expectation is a motivation, and there are others who get paid the money. Kickstarter pays out the money, and it's like, oh my God, I don't know, the last time I had a check for $30,000 sitting in my account, and they don't necessarily realize the business sense of that $30,000 is already accounted for, whether it's paying yourself for your work and artists, layout, and it's gotten better over the recent years, but when I was first following Kickstarter, and I'm a super backer, so I don't know when Super Backer kicks in, but it's over 350 projects I've backed over the years.
Wow.
A lot of those earlier projects were people who had produced something in the industry prior, maybe for one of the bigger companies, basically put out their own shingle, made their own little company, limited liability company, and kickstarted, and maybe they were looking to raise $5,000, and they raised 47,000. The next thing you know, they are renting office space, hiring a receptionist, and then 6 months later, they're back on Kickstarter saying the funds are gone and nothing's going to come because they're just don't understand the business sense. You obviously have a sense of the business sense, but again, this is your gig. This is your job.
Yeah, well, I mean, to be honest, it's only been the last year, I think, that we've actually started making a profit. Before that, I mean, at the moment, as a director of a company, because I'm the director of a company, I can't. We still kind of live on benefits.
Right.
So we don't. I mean, this is my job, and so we kind of live on benefits, and we rely upon government handouts to be able to live how I live. So in order to pay for my rent and that sort of stuff, I have government handouts. We don't make enough money for me to do that myself at the moment. And any money I do make, generally any money we make on, I mean, we do make money, obviously, but all of it goes back into making games.
Right.
And
Some of that is, and that's something else that people don't necessarily understand, is that to work towards success, you literally have to pay towards success.
exactly, yeah, totally. I mean, the money we've made. I mean, this shows that we are making money in the last few months. We're able to pay for our convention this June. So we have a convention in the UK called the UK Games Expo, and I've paid for that completely out of the money I've made selling Ghost Ops.
Wow.
So I've paid for the stand, and I paid for electric, and I paid for all the stuff that comes to, and it's like £2,000, right? And I've still got money in the account on drive-through to buy stock because I've still get to do buy stock. So basically, yeah, the money I've made on drive-through through selling games, I'll put back into selling games. I very rarely take any money out. If I do spend money, I tend to buy games with it because I'm interested, because that's part of research for me now, really.
Right.
And tax deductible. So I can, I buy games occasionally, see new games that have come out. I'm kind of interested, or I want to see what their layout is like. Layout is a very big thing I like to look at in games at the moment, how they lay their games out. Quite sad, really. I never really thought about it before. So over the last few years, I've actually started looking at layout and go, ooh, that's a nice layout. So an awful lot of, most of the money we make tends to go straight back into the business. And it'd be nice one day to be able to pay. I look forward to that day. When I make so much money that I can actually pay myself a monthly wage, would be great. I can come off benefits and I'll be able to live my life.
But, and there's something else that isn't even mentioned, but you're building up a base of customers, and the hope is that at some point you hit that critical mass where you have a customer base that supports your work enough that, like you said, you can pay yourself a monthly salary. It's the same thing I've noticed with even people coming into blogging and podcasting, or they expect to come into stuff and automatically have an audience, and you have to build that audience. And success is not instantaneous. You're not going to come into it with a huge number of people wanting to listen to you talk, or your written word or your published word. You have to put the time and the effort in to get there, and you've been putting the time and the effort, and it's obvious. So
yeah, I mean, it's lucky. I mean, some people, they walk straight into it. I mean, I can mention people like Monty Cook and Robert Schwab and stuff who have had past experience, and their success in their own games has been based on that past experience. Like Monty Cook, for example, did 3.5 AD&D and stuff.
Yep.
I'd be surprised if Numenera would have done as well if he hadn't done that.
Right. He had to build up awareness of himself prior. He worked on he also, before Numenera, he was working on D&D Next.
Exactly, yes.
So,
So with somebody like me who hasn't got that background, it's a lot harder.
yeah.
Because people aren't going to spend money on something that they don't know anything about. And they're going to look at it and think, well, I've never heard of that crap, And that's one of the risks you take with things like Kickstarter, really, to be honest. Is, maybe the product is not going to be as good as it sounds on the page. And that's just a risk you take. And it's a risk you take with anything that you don't know about.
Yeah.
And that's something that every independent publisher is sort of battling against, really. Is that, need to prove themselves that the next product will be the same or better than the last, so that people will think, oh, I bought the last one, that was really good, I'll buy the next one. It's difficult,
Right.
really.
Certainly. Because you always have to raise that bar. And at some point, how much further can you raise it?
Exactly.
I don't, and I've seen that with a number of companies, and Kickstarter is a weird beast because it's not just a funding platform; it's a marketing platform.
It is, yeah, totally. It is very much so. I mean, it's one of the things I tend to do, and I've done with very little success. Actually, was I have a strong belief that independent RPGs are the lifeblood of the hobby, really. Because it's those things that keep everything changing and keep everything sort of moving, really. If everything was just Pathfinder and D&D and Traveller or, these main, it would be very dull, really, very quickly. So independent RPGs are very important. And you can see that for things like Apocalypse World and so forth, which all started off as very small and built their way up. But on Kickstarter, I see an awful lot of people who release RPGs and it's the first time they've ever done it and they're not doing very well. So I often message these people and say, look, if you need any advice or help or anything, get in contact. I'm happy to help you. I don't want any money from it. I'm not trying to sell them anything. I just want to sort of say, look, how you're doing things. And the amount of times that people have contacted me and said, oh, yeah, no, I'm doing all right. I've paid for this marketing and I've paid Facebook and I've paid this. And I'm thinking, why? Why? It's the worst thing you can do. And the best marketing is you. You're the best marketing for it. Because Facebook don't care about your game. Some marketing company doesn't care about your game. You're the best person to promote your own game. And paying somebody else to do it just doesn't work.
Because hopefully you believe in your game and you believe in yourself and you believe in your work. And,
exactly.
Somebody on the side, I mean, if you have a way to have, I don't know, an ad put out that is going to be directed at your particular market, that's fine. But a lot of times these ads are just put out, I don't want to say randomly, but certainly without much market research within the hobby. And you have to have real feel for where to go. Advertisement can work, but I think on our level, and when I say our level, the independent level, and not the larger third party publishers like Goodman Games and Frog Eye Games, they can benefit from advertising because they have a large community and a large reach, and they just need to make that reach larger. But on our level is that word of mouth and that able to connect with your community that I think holds more weight than any kind of ad that you're going to put out there.
Well, exactly. I mean, anybody can post in Facebook RPG groups. Anybody can post on Reddit, post on RPG. Yeah. Anybody can come on the Discord, on this Discord channel, and post things in the Kickstarter page, or even say, look, how about can I do a podcast? And that's the best kind of advertising you can do, because that's what people, because if I see an advert or something, I ignore it unless it's in a group where I actually go to and read the stuff, and it's a post, not some sort of sidebar, and you never see posts of role-playing games by somebody other than a person who's producing that game. So these marketing companies you hear about, where do they post these things? I've never seen them. I've never seen an advert posted of a role-playing game by somebody other than a person doing that role-playing game. So generally speaking, they obviously are it's a scam, really. I mean, at the end of the day, I honestly think they're a scam. best advertising you can do for it is just to do it yourself. Post stuff out on Facebook, Reddit, RPG Geek, on Discord channels, places where role players actually read and go to and look at, and not some weird marketing company who's going to charge you 500 quid or whatever to post it in some random place that you're never going to ever see. And yeah, it's not targeted at all. Yeah. Anyway, that's my rant over.
No, and it's like I said, it's a legitimate rant, and the I would say that to effectively market, you probably need more than $500 worth of ads on Facebook, and that's something that on our level we are not going to be able to bring to the table. So marketing like that is not going to be effective. But like you said, hitting social media and being your own evangelist, evangelizing your own work is certainly more effective and certainly more cost effective than the handful of customers you might pick up for your $500 investment or whatever it will be buying advertisement.
Yeah. Yeah, I think how independents who just started out with a Kickstarter thing and they haven't got a great deal of money, and then they're getting bombarded by all these marketing teams offering all this great, amazing stuff, and it never funds. You think, well, you just spent out £2,000 on marketing and it didn't come to anything.
Right. So now you're out of that. You're out of pocket.
Yeah, exactly.
$2,000, and you did. You don't even fund them. Then what?
Yeah, exactly. And how many people actually pay these money to these marketing companies, then think, oh, I don't need to do any marketing myself because they're going to do it for me. And
no.
And it happens, and. But if you're doing a Kickstarter and you get a message from me, take me on board because I will help you. I don't want anything for it. I'm not asking for anything. I just want to see you succeed because I think that with more people out there making independent RPGs, are better. So, and I'll help market your bloody game for free. I'll post it everywhere if I have to.
There you go. And to be honest with you, I have. There was a period of time at the end of last year that I was probably getting I don't know, anywhere from 8 to a dozen requests every month to look at pre-release Kickstarter pages for people. Because I've backed a number of Kickstarters. I've critiqued a number of Kickstarters, and I have no problem if you reach out to me and you want me to take a look at something. It's free advice. I don't get paid for it. I don't ask to get paid for it. I want Kickstarters to succeed, and a lot of times, and when I say succeed, it also means yes, you might fund. Funding does not mean success. Funding means that you hit that post that actually allows you to collect the money. But actual success is getting that project out in a timely fashion, according to the schedule that you put out there, and avoiding things like, I don't know, infinite stretch goals in print, or offering coffee mugs as a stretch goal, not realizing how much that's going to cost you to ship, let alone produce. It was a couple of years ago, man. It was really bad. People were probably losing money on Kickstarter because they did not understand the business side of it, and that's really what it comes down to. You have to treat it like a business.
Well, in a weird kind of way, they've kind of screwed it for other people, really, because now people expect stretch goals, don't they? They kind of look at it and think, oh, I don't know, the stretch goal, there's no stretch goals or whatever. And a lot of people just won't back a game because there's no stretch goals, or the stretch goals aren't very interesting. And I think that's really sad. It's like, it's not a prize, you know what I mean?
No, my personal opinion when it comes to stretch goals, especially for smaller publishers, is your stretch goals should be strictly in PDF. And your first 2 or 3 stretch goals that you're offering, they should all be small anyway. But if it's written material, it should be something that you've already written and would have put into the core book, except for the fact that you limited your core book to a certain size. So this stuff should be already stuff that you have. So it shouldn't be costing you anything. It just be encouraging people. The cost to add a physical stretch goal when you're not increasing the actual amount of money that each person is pledging is madness, unless you're, I don't know, Goodman Games and are raising $100,000 and you can to put in your, I don't know, bookmarks or character sheets that you can, print in China for, I don't know, 100 sheets for 10 cents, where you're not
Yeah.
really affecting your bottom line. But a lot of times people are like, oh, well, I'm going to put in a GM screen. Well, I hope you budgeted for that initially, because you might have just killed all your profits from that GM screen.
Exactly, yeah. I mean, it's like with Wraith Recon, for example, the stretch goals there are kind of like generally internal. So the idea is that if we hit, like, I think the second stretch goal is Dardaric. So if we hit the Dardaric stretch goal, I've actually got a writer sitting there waiting just to expand the whole Dardaric section, and to make it bigger and more, more information and generally flesh it out a bit more, sort of in depth. And a lot of the writers I've got actually for Wraith Recon helped with the original Wraith Recon.
Oh, nice.
Which is kind of cool. So at the moment, the funding level is just for artwork and layout and the general kind of cleaning up of the original, the rule sections and stuff, which I'm going to have to, I get other people to sort of do the rule sections who know the rules better than I do, and it allows me to have a bit more time doing my bit. So that all kind of covers that, but any of the stretch goals do cover extra stuff in the book. So the book will grow as the stretch goals get knocked down, I think. So,
That's worth it.
But we've got some good writing. I mean, Darren Pierce, who's just finished writing the Judge Dredd role playing game, and also the Wrath and Glory Warhammer 40k role playing game, and did a lot of stuff for Lone Wolf. August Han has also done a lot for Lone Wolf. Richard August, another writer we've got on board, who did the Corvus Infinity Modiphius game and some of the Conan stuff for Modiphius. So we've got some pretty good writers behind it, waiting to jump in there and do their bit as soon as we hit those goals, really. But that's the trouble, see, as being an independent and having no money, basically, I do rely very heavily on the Kickstarter to actually produce a game. If you don't fund, the chances are the game won't be made. So I just don't have the money.
Well, and that's it too. Kickstarter.
That's what it's for, really, isn't it?
Right.
It allows something. Right. You've got a pre-order, which is what a lot of.
Yeah. No, it allows you to. Yeah, it allows you to fund a project with literally less risk to the project creator, as opposed to them being, putting out money that a lot of times isn't even there.
Yeah.
And I think that the largest key to Kickstarter success when it comes to the RPG industry is to have your core product written. The hopes and dreams, having a great idea, and then I don't know, like Far West, 7.5 years later, still not have it out there because it was a great idea and you were psyched, but putting it on paper is a totally different thing.
Yeah.
Put it on paper, have it written down, have those core rules done, and then you can worry about the stretch goals or the extras. But once you have that core product written, you have something to offer your backers.
Yeah.
Like you do.
This is kind of one of the good things about Wraith Recon, really, because a lot of it's already written.
Right.
And it is just a case of we've got all the files and just moving everything across and just expanding upon it, really, and making it better. We've had new maps made and stuff, so didn't like the original map. So the artwork's been improved. We've got some new artwork. We've coloured the artwork because it was all black and white. So all of that is kind of, really is just a case of integrating the rules. And we have got quick starts for both Wraith Recon, Savage Worlds, and the Fudge Dice, the Feral Engine, we call it, version on drive-through for free. So you can actually download those and check it out. So.
Now, is that based on Fudge or Fate?
Well, yeah, no, it uses Fudge Dice, and that's just Fudge kind of gets, really. I like Fudge Dice. I think they've got a really good curve on them, and Ghost Ops has worked really well using Fudge Dice. It really does give you a lot of options.
All right, that's nice. It's funny because I still remember finding the fudge rules. Oh my god! I think when I found the internet, and I liked the idea that the fudge rules were made that so you could literally cut out anything that didn't fit. You just dropped. It was
Yeah,
like fudge rules could come down to a page of rules if you really wanted to, because it wasn't that much that was needed besides explaining how to add up those dice.
yeah, exactly. I mean, we still kind of use the thing where you roll the fudge dice and add your skill to it, but we add new rules, we have pools and stuff, and we have advantages and disadvantages where, if you've got the advantage, then obviously the target number is less, and disadvantage means it's higher and stuff, and there's various different rules we've added to it, and it kind of expands upon the whole, which takes it very much away from fudge. It's still a pretty simple system, but we have things like bullet time where you can actually jump into a room and take out all the guards, and it's all sort of done in slow-mo. So we have all of that kind of Tom Clancy kind of action movie stuff going on with it. So
Very cool. All
yeah,
right. Well, I think we've covered a large amount of ground in this episode. Pretty good.
yeah.
Now, yeah, your Kickstarter is got what, another 2 days to fund, I think.
Ends on Sunday. Yeah, we're £600 from funding goal, which is
All
not very
right.
much, really.
No, and usually those last 2 days have a huge upswing. It's the first 2 days, the last 2 days, and that slow middle ground.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, exactly. It's unusual for us because normally all our Kickstarters are kind of funded within the first few days. Ghost Ops funded within 3 hours.
Really?
And that funded twice because it funded within 3 hours, and then somebody kind of mentioned that the postage was a little bit wrong. I thought, oh God, I can't change it now because obviously people have backed on the pledges and stuff, and I can't change it. So what I did was I cancelled the whole Kickstarter after it funded and restarted it with a whole new set of pledges about half an hour later, and it funded again in 3 hours. So it funded twice in one day. So
well, that's awesome.
It's awesome. But I didn't want to. I knew that I didn't want to screw over the backers by having.
No.
So I thought the only way I'm going to do this and do it right, so that backers get, make it fair, is to basically cancel and restart. And it was a big risk, but it was worth it because it was well, it's how
it funded it funded in hours. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, what I'm gonna do is I'm going to put a link to the Kickstarter up in the show notes. I'll put a link to your drive-through store in the show notes, so listeners should go there to find more information and to make purchases if they desire.
And Ghost Ops, there's only pay what you want for a few more hours. So if you want to grab it,
you may, if this episode goes up tonight, you may or may not catch the sale on it. I did as I was doing the podcast. I went in and grabbed it, but hey,
yeah, that's good. I hope you enjoy it.
I hope so too. I probably will. Well, Jay, man, thank you.
No problem.
This was really nice. Well, folks, as always, like I said, check the show notes. There'll be links in the show notes. Be safe, be healthy. God bless. Roll your dice well, and I will talk with the rest of you all tomorrow. Later, folks.